scoring at Sportman, puts it up and scores! Touchdown, Michigan! Hollis off the Heisman! And listen to this going so wild.
The most eagerly awaited hockey game in recent Olympic history, the United States and the Soviet Union. Here's Johnson! He scores! Krutov a shot, and a fine save by Craig. Ramsey off the boards, looks to leap over one of the Soviets. Shout! And Baker takes it right away from him. A fine play by Baker.
We were playing UMD. It was a regular night for us. And between periods, there was a little black and white TV screen. And the Duluth players, the Minnesota players, we were all there basically arm in arm clawing over each other trying to see this little screen as to what our buddies were doing in the Olympics.
You're kind of going, can you believe that? Can you believe what just happened? Can you believe what they did?
What a celebration it is! What a hockey game!
I don't remember the score of the Duluth game, but I do remember that USA won 4-3.
The 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team authored one of the most improbable upsets in sports history. The squad that conquered the world featured a roster comprised of college hockey players, 9 of whom once wore the maroon and gold of Minnesota.
I'm thinking, those are my teammates. Those are my guys.
In the 70s, college hockey was not a big deal. All the rinks across the country, they didn't have sold-out billings.
Gopher hockey in the 60s and particularly the early mid-70s was a real clannish thing. A building that sat 7,700 in the old Mariucci Arena would routinely have 3,000 or 4,000 people.
71, 72, the program was in disarray, and there's actually rumors that they're going to cancel the program out of the budget at the University of Minnesota.
In 1972, with Gopher hockey floundering, Minnesota native and Gopher alum Herb Brooks was tabbed as the new head man and charged with leading a program that had never won an NCAA championship, despite being located in fertile hockey recruiting ground.
He just worked tirelessly. He literally was scraping the gum off the bleachers under Williams Arena, and he just gave his whole heart to that program.
Don't be throwing those rink lights in this zone. Hit the shortest guy, all right?
When I played in college, we did not have great crowds, but that 73, 74 championship, I think, put it on a pedestal.
Revived by Coach Brooks, the Gopher hockey program appeared in 3 straight NCAA championship games between 1974 and 1976 and collected their first 2 national titles.
By the time we were freshmen, he had already won 2 national championships. So by that time, he had brought the University of Minnesota hockey program to the highest level.
I'd get all these different letters from different colleges, but I remember racing home and looking for that one with that big gold M. When the word came down that I was going to be offered a scholarship, it was just like, where do I sign and when?
After NCAA titles in both 1974 and 1976, the program assumed the image of national power. But experience gave way to youth, and success morphed into mediocrity again in 1977 and 1978.
Freshman year of 1976-77, we went to Lake Superior State, which at that time was a Division II school. We lost. We went back to Williams Arena on a Sunday, got on the ice, and skated for 3.5 hours.
We had 9 freshmen on that team, so half your team is freshmen. We had a tough time.
Those seasons, they were long, they were hard. At times, you wondered what it was you were building for.
I remember what he told these guys at the beginning of the 79 season was just basically, gentlemen, we will win the national championship this year.
It was the first game of the 78-79 season. My first interview with Herb Brooks for a pregame show on radio, and I said, where do you think this team realistically will finish? And he said, we will win the national championship. And I said, well, that's a great goal. He said, no, I guarantee you, we will win the national championship.
It's just so uncharacteristic for him to be that cocky, basically, to say, yeah, we're going to win the national championship.
He found a way early on to basically hang a sword over our neck. and force us to rise to the occasion.
In retrospect, he kind of regretted that he made the comment because he thought he might have put too much pressure on us.
I think hockey in Minnesota is a cult. Most kids in Minnesota think about playing hockey, and it's been that way for a lot of years.
I mean, if you're 2 or 3 or 4, you put on your skates and started skating. It was just a part of life growing up there.
The lake froze over before we had any snow. You go out and skate on the lake and skate for miles. Somebody misses a pass, and it goes like 300 yards.
It was the meeting place for the neighborhood, and we'd be down there every night if we could.
You'd have who knows how many games throughout an afternoon or a Saturday. Some of them might have been 15 on 15, and others were just you against 2 little guys.
Many of those kids dreamed of wearing Minnesota maroon and gold. A lot of them had that dream for a long time because in those days, Minnesota was just about a 100% Minnesota team.
John Mariucci, the University of Minnesota head coach for 13 seasons in the 1950s and 60s, planted a flag in the Minnesota soil in support of the in-state amateur player over imported players.
John Mariucci was willing to do anything he possibly could to give the U.S. kid and the Minnesota kid an opportunity to make it.
To take that vision was very tough because a lot of the teams went with the Canadian kids that were very, very good. They played more games. North Dakota and Wisconsin, by and large, went to Canada back then, and Duluth was going to Canada a great deal.
We are all from Minnesota. We started our hockey and youth programs through high school and now the University of Minnesota.
There was always a thought process that we wanted to prove these Canadians that we can play.
St. Paul native Herb Brooks embraced the John Mariucci model of recruiting, building a fence around the land of 10,000 lakes.
Herbie took the reins from John and took that same mantra and brought that forward.
All right, way to go. Goalie, stick it right to him. Stick it to him.
Herbie wouldn't let us think that in any way that there were other teams or players from whatever country that were superior to us.
He knew what he was getting, and I think Herb was the guy that wanted to know what he was getting.
There was rumors of maybe a Canadian player coming in, and boy, were there rumblings, because we were very proud of the fact that we were all Minnesota homegrown players.
What it did is it brought this sense of pride to the entire state. What was built was this championship attitude, and so everybody wanted to join that.
Did I want to come out and say, yeah, I want to play for Herb? I would never come out and say that publicly. But you're going to U, you're getting Herb. And Herb was the face of the program. Coach Brooks came to Grand Rapids, and he had my parents kind of eating out of the palm of his hand, and I signed this letter of intent, and as we're standing on our front porch, he says, you know, I just want you to know that's the nicest you're ever going to see me. From this point on, I'm going to be a mean SOB. And he turns and walks away, and my parents are standing there like, what did we just get into?
We got to back those guys up in that zone. We can't be trailing the play up that close. Sit down.
They're scared to death of him. You know, I could see it. I could see it in their eyes.
He would motivate me different than he would motivate you. He figured out where your hot button was, and he could punch it whenever he wanted to.
Brooks stretched the team physically during practices at Williams Arena in crosstown Augsburg College, while mentally he began the 1978-79 season with an exercise that confounded even those players who had grown to expect the unforeseen.
Herb comes in and he hands out a packet to everybody and tells us he's got a psychological test for us. Most of us are laughing. You're looking around the room and you're wondering who's going to pass this thing, who's not.
Certainly the first time we've ever done that as hockey players.
I was thinking, what's this all about? Where's this going? I mean, I'm just a hockey player. What, you know, why are we just drop the puck, let's go?
He always wanted it to be, you know, he was the coach and you were the player, and it seemed kind of unusual.
Herbie made a point of separating himself from his players. For reasons, some unbeknownst to me, but My guess would be so that he can make lineup changes without the emotional part of it.
I was playing, and he literally didn't talk to me at all. And the only thing I did hear from time to time was how bad I was playing. Then one day we come in for practice, we're warming up, Coach Brooks skates by, and under his breath he says, "Hey, played pretty good last weekend." And I just like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill this guy.
I can remember some practices we skated so long and hard the blue line wore down and the red line wore down. That teaches you a lesson that you really, really want to win.
If we're going to be successful, we're going to have to work hard and not only beat the opponent, but we're going to have to beat Coach Brooks as well. One of the things Coach Brooks would say is you've got all the tools, but absolutely no toolbox.
Herb would say, "Ramsey, you're playing worse and worse every day. And right now you're playing like it's next month."
$1 million legs and a 5-cent brain.
Oh, yeah, you look like I got a 5-pound fart in your head.
Hey, Joe, take 2 weeks off, then retire. Herb.
Coach would always say to me, "Phil, you've got hands like feet."
Herbie had a lot of lines. Very few, if any, were original.
For us, we're like, oh, here we go.
The early 70s was a different era with the Flyers, and it was crash and bang and fight. I don't think it's a proud moment for hockey.
If you didn't have anything going, you just dumped the puck in the zone, and now you're playing a game of territory. It was an attractive element to be able to go out and push people around.
Herbie always made sure that he had the right balance of not just all talent, but, you know, those guys from South St. Paul. They were the street fighters.
Come on, you little punk, come on.
Those first 2 national championship teams, they banged guys, they kind of beat them up, and that was the recipe of the Broad Street Bullies.
During my 4 years there, the personality changed. We were hard hat and lunch pail teams. And then Herbie recruited this group of kids right behind me that it was a different type of a player. This team was his next evolution. Steve Kristoff and Eric Strobo, Robbie McClanahan, Timmy Haar. Those guys were a different kind of player.
My class was as deep a class in terms of recruiting talent as the U's ever had. And I'm not saying that because it's my class. Others have told me that from outside.
Now all of a sudden he had all these thoroughbreds, and that kind of morphed his whole coaching methodology because of those players.
He took a very international view of the game. He studied the game the way the Russians played it. So they weren't just playing North American hockey.
He spent a lot of time on integrating what he called the weave.
You have to move to open ice, and then you have to expect to get the puck. You know, it was helter-skelter, you know, at the first practices because we had no idea what to do.
Herb starts this drill, and we got Donnie Micheletti and Timmy Haar and Kristoff running into each other, and he blows a gasket. He just skated us for an hour and a half because we weren't Russians, and he wanted us to be that day.
We pass it to the defenseman. We start weaving this way and that way.
And the wing would cut over and the centerman would cut around.
I see Timmy start circling this way, so I got to go all the way over to the right side.
Left wing's coming back and right wing's coming back and center's interacting.
You're always moving, always rotating.
Once you have that puck, you keep that puck.
Once we figured it out, a lot of teams that we played against, they had no clue what was going on.
The elaborate offensive scheme thrust upon the Gophers was part of a grander plan. In the spring of 1978, USA Hockey named Brooks the head coach for the 1980 Olympic squad.
I remember him being just utterly obsessed with that Olympic team. I mean, he just spent hours and hours down the basement working on preparations of the Olympic team.
Herb realized he had to play that game to compete at the international level.
At Minnesota, he undoubtedly felt that he had the talent to try and institute something like this.
The 78-79 team was perhaps an incubator for some of his thought processes that way because we had players who were capable of hanging on to the puck.
He was using us to figure out whether he thought it could work or not.
The attention on Brooks went beyond the amateur level. Months before the 1978-79 season, he was approached by two former Gophers who presented a unique opportunity.
Minnesota's North Stars wanted Herb Brooks as their head coach. And you had Lou Nanny and John Mariucci working in the front office who were trying to make it happen. My older brother, Dick, he had worked in the front office, PR director for the Minnesota North Stars. At the dinner table, we started talking about, I thought realistically Herb could take that position.
I remember we were on vacation in South Dakota, and we have to stop in these little whistle-stop towns so we could, talk to Lou Nanny about the North Stars. I think he wanted a little bit more money from the North Stars. He would have been a little bit more serious, but he just decided to stay.
I know I talked to Herb about that quite a bit, and he knew the 78-79 team was going to be very good, and he wanted to be part of that.
Brooks turned down the NHL and turned his eyes back to the squad that he promised the world the promised land.
You could see from some of the scores in the games, I mean, we could score goals.
We were the best thing on campus. We were the best show in town.
You got guys who scored 30, 40 goals in high school, and they knew how to put the puck in the net. If we had 8 or 10 chances to score, we'd probably score 5 or 6.
The 1978-79 Gophers set a team record for goals scored, while averaging 5.6 tallies per game in the regular season.
When things really turned was that Michigan weekend where we just filled the net.
We went in there and just smoked them. I think it was 10-1. We scored 8 goals the second period of that game, and that was actually a game I got a hat trick.
We weren't trying to intimidate teams, we were trying to outscore teams.
When we were in a locker room, we knew we were the best team in the country. We knew we could take on anybody.
It was 1975, and my dad said to me, "Do you want to get out of school to go to watch the best high school hockey player in the state?" And I said, "Is he going to play for you next year?" And he said, "Well, I would love to, but he can't." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And he said, "Well, he's only 15 years old. He's in 9th grade, and his name is Neil Broughton."
Neil Broughton was very well known in northern Minnesota. He was a star for the Rosa Rams, which is a perennial state tournament team.
As an assistant coach, I went up to Rosso every Tuesday night for almost 3 straight years, and it's a long drive up, a long drive back.
It didn't take very long before you'd watch him play and go, whoa, who is this guy? He did things that other players didn't do.
In the fall of 1978, another one of Herb Brooks's blue-chip recruiting classes arrived on campus, featuring forward Neil Broughton and defenseman Mike Ramsey.
Badger Bob called me and he said, "We'd like to come to Wisconsin." And I said, "Well, I'm going to commit to the U." And he says, "Well, you haven't even visited anywhere yet." He says, "Like buying the first car you see." He says, "You can't do that." And I said, "I don't need to come." And he was mad at me. I started the year in JV, and the team would go on the road. I would stay back, and we'd play like Augsburg College, Bucks unpainted furniture. It wasn't fun. I wanted to get on the varsity.
He was a roommate with me. We're going lights out the first night we're at Notre Dame, and Mike kind of says to me, he goes, "Johnny, what am I doing here?" I said, "Mike, if Herb brought you here, it's for a reason, and you'll be just fine."
People like Mike Ramsey and Neil Broughton, I mean, they were top liners coming in, but they were freshmen. I think they put us over the top.
When you're the team that we were, everybody plays bigger, harder, tougher than you do, and you got to be ready to play every game, every shift.
The Gophers ran off an 11-1 stretch from late November into January before losing 2 of their next 4 games, leading up to a weekend road series at Denver.
I knew it was a big series. As a team, we were terrible.
We had no continuity, we had no flow, we had basically no confidence.
The Gophers dropped both games in Denver.
We were a little upset. We knew we were a better team. It went to old U of M hockey. We all went crazy. We just started fighting. Everybody was fighting everybody, and it was a mess. We had good times on those road trips, and you earned a little bit of freedom. In Denver, we had no freedom.
You're thinking, oh gosh, you're gonna have to have curfew, what's gonna happen? And all of a sudden the pizzas show up.
Herb locked us in and it basically said, "You guys figure this thing out."
There was pressure because we played for Minnesota. There was pressure because he had said we're going to win it all, and we were underperforming, so he just let up on us for a little bit.
I think he probably found it frustrating in kind of incorporating this European hybrid with some of the personalities that, you know, questioned maybe a little bit. And I don't know that he was necessarily completely used to somebody saying, you know, why are we doing that?
We need everybody to participate in their roles. Some kids didn't participate in their roles.
He said, we're winning a national championship. I'm sure he's starting to think to himself, uh-oh, what have I got going here?
After the sweep at the hands of Denver, the Gophers won their next 4 games, then traveled to face a middle-of-the-pack Notre Dame team.
Going to play Notre Dame was real different atmosphere. They were like, your ice rink was in a field house. There'd be someone like playing basketball or jogging on the other side of the rink.
The Notre Dame series going in seemed like everything was going to be cooking along just as it had, and for whatever reason, it didn't come out at all.
Notre Dame swept the series from Minnesota, giving the Gophers 6 losses in their last 12 games.
Goaltending wasn't stalwart. We weren't putting forth that effort like we used to, and you're thinking, is this how we're going to end up the year?
The series was defined by who wasn't on the ice. Senior starting goaltender Steve Janaszak.
It was just abysmal. It was probably the low point of the season for me.
Herbie pulled Steve Janaszak out of the game, and whether he should have been pulled or not, I don't know. But Steve was very angry, and there's some words exchanged.
I want to be in there and play every day. So yeah, I probably was resentful at the time. When you have a conversation about Herb Brooks, the words fairness or equity, they're just not part of the conversation. Fairness was whatever worked.
After a shaky start in Game 2, Janaszak was pulled for freshman Jim Jetland on the heels of a stretch in which Jetland had started 1 game in each of the previous 2 series.
Jetland went on to become a terrific goaltender here, but Herbie didn't put him in then to make him a terrific goaltender. He put him in to send a message.
He must have thought Janny needed to be reminded that he's not the automatic goalie, so get that in your head, kid.
If I was a goalie that year, I would have gone crazy. Herbie might have been a master manipulator or motivator, but I don't think he had a real handle on how to handle a goaltender.
I do recall not being happy with the way everything was handled there, and probably was going to show him something. From that point on, we all played really well.
Janny found his game at the end of the year. He was spectacular.
We were blowing people out. I mean, it was a different team. It was a big mind game, and to the extent it worked, it worked.
You could feel the momentum starting to change, and we were getting our mojo back, so to speak. We were starting to feel better about how we were playing.
The old Williams Arena was an amazing place to play. It could get incredibly loud. Probably the only place I've heard it more loud for a small arena was up in Lake Placid.
We come out on the ice and it's like your skates wouldn't hit for the first lap around. You got 8,000 fans standing up, going crazy. It smelled like hockey. I mean, it just smelled like, you know, where you wanted to be.
Minnesota won 14 of their first 18 games at Williams Arena, and that advantage would help during the final weekend of the regular season as the Gophers needed to sweep North Dakota to win the WCHA championship.
Here's North Dakota coming down to the Williams Arena. We know it's for the McNaughton Cup, the championship of the WCHA.
That was the team to beat. We weren't. We were a good team, but they were supposed to be the best team.
This one guy from North Dakota skated up, and we all used pretty much the same brand stick, Christian Brothers hockey stick. He said, "How do you like your Christian Brother?" And I says, I like it a lot. I've used it my whole life. And he says, well, you're going to be eating one tonight.
We played North Dakota 7 times that year, and it was a battle all the time.
They hit our guys, we hit their guys. So there was just a physical rivalry.
Personally, I hate the way they play. They are always doing this extracurricular stuff, just stirring it up when they should just be playing the game of hockey. It just drove us nuts.
14 of 20 players on North Dakota's roster were of Canadian heritage, in stark contrast to the Minnesota-bred Gophers.
Was it a U.S.-Canadian thing? Yeah, I think it was.
It was a significant grudge that they had, that they were Canadians and they were hockey. They were very provincial about it, for sure.
North Dakota, I think, viewed that they were year in, year out the best team, and we felt that year was our year.
Minnesota handled the Fighting Sioux 5-2 in the Friday night opener, setting up a winner-take-all regular season finale on Saturday for the WCHA title.
I remember Don Micheletti coming in Saturday before the game, and I think it was the group Queen who sings "We Are the Champions." And he's blasting that in our locker room. Talk about kicking yourself in the teeth.
Saturday night, you know, it was just an up and down game, just a classic WCHA game.
It was close all the way through. We didn't really ever take control of the game.
I wasn't very proud with the goals I gave up in that game. I'll wake up in the middle of the night yet today, and it'll be a goal. It'll be the one I missed.
North Dakota led 3-2 in the final minutes when Minnesota pulled goalie Steve Janaszak for an extra skater.
We lose the puck, and Davey Christian skates all the way down. He gets within 5 feet from the net and takes a good old slapper right into the net. And I'm thinking, you big bro, we'll get yours.
We'd recruit him at Minnesota, and it didn't work out, but it just seemed like we were just putting it in our face, you know.
As a player, you only have a few times in the course of your playing career where you're playing championship games. It was disappointing because we had it there. We had it in our hands. I felt I let the guys down.
We said, oh gosh, what are we gonna do now? My dad said, well, then you go out and you forget about it and have fun and make a run for the NCAA.
The loss left Minnesota with a second-place finish in the WCHA, making their road to the Final Four more challenging.
Maybe that loss actually had a positive impact. We had something to prove after that game.
Often it's been said that the team that wins the WCHA rarely wins the NCAA. I wouldn't want to try and beat us twice in a row. We would respond.
The greatest strength that Herbie had was getting his players to play at their highest level at the most important times. And the most important time is at the end of the year.
The Gophers opened the WCHA tournament against Michigan Tech in a 2-game total goals format.
First game of the playoffs, and I think the team at the time was struggling a little bit. I was on a fourth line at the time. I was good at hitting goalies and missing nets, but this one found a way over a shoulder, and I did some jumping around. I was excited.
We were up in the game 5-1, and I think we let off the gas a little bit, and they got a couple goals. I think it was 5-3 finish.
The Gophers' sloppy play did not sit well with Coach Brooks.
They basically went out and laid an egg and just played poorly. So I remember the players all going into the locker room, and I just kind of blended in. And he turns the corner, and he looks right at me, and he just points. He goes, Danny, get out of here. He slammed the door, and I heard crashing and banging.
He takes the case of pop, and he's twirling it around and, almost nails Eric Strobel. And we're thinking, geez, are we behind? What's going on here?
Literally, he was screeching. I've never heard that tone come out of his mouth before or since.
He basically was trying to show us that if we were going to not play our game, anybody could step up to us.
Brooks's fiery diatribe resonated as the Gophers skated past Michigan Tech in Game 2 and advanced to play a stout University of Minnesota Duluth squad in the second round.
The 2 seed hurt us more from who we had to play versus psychological. We had some trouble with Duluth during the year.
Duluth was in-state, a team that was highly motivated to beat what they called us the main U back then. I think Mark Pavlich had the puck on the boards, and I poked it away from him in our zone. I skated basically 150 feet when I did my move and scored up high. It was a big deal.
Minnesota doubled up Duluth in the 2 games, and the Gophers began mentally packing for the NCAA Final Four. But the team received an unpleasant post-game surprise.
We found out later that we had to play Bowling Green. We did not know that that was going to take place until after we were done with our WCHA playoffs.
That was the first time they'd introduced that format. It was kind of an odd situation.
Bowling Green from the CCHA had a then NCAA record 37 wins and was led by 2 future Olympians in Mark Wells and Ken Morrow.
That game, more than any game we played, was one where I just was really nervous. It was so unexpected.
Herbie's telling us how good these guys are, and we're thinking, we're good. You should be telling them we're good, not telling us they're good. I don't care if they were the North Stars. We weren't going to lose that game, and we weren't going to lose it to a team from the CCHA. Herbie comes and he talks to me and Phil Ricotta, and he says, if Ken Morrow gets the puck, just leave him alone. Let him skate with the puck.
Don't touch him, because he's going to beat you anyway, so you might as well get him in center ice, making this guy, like he walked on water.
And Phil and I look at each other and go, that son of a... He thinks we're going to get hurt if we hit this guy.
I'm thinking, I've never heard anything positive about me. What about me? What about me? By the time we saw him on the ice, I was like, I hated the guy.
Williams Arena always had good ice. The ice that day was horrific. It was so warm out, and it was a challenge.
I think it was 3-0 in the first period, and we kind of owned them after that.
The 6-3 victory over the Falcons sent Minnesota to the Final Four for the 4th time under Herb Brooks. The city of Detroit hosted the tournament.
It was kind of like an old, rough part of town, and we never even knew places like this existed.
There's a couple guys running over on top of cars, running away, and we can see them being chased, and we're thinking, are we going to get mugged here?
It was the old Olympia Arena, which was a dingy, dark, kind of dirty place that was eventually going to be torn down shortly thereafter.
The environment itself was very odd. I'm not sure that they had 3,000 people in this cavernous NHL building. It was almost a little morgue-like in the setting.
No, snap your fingers. That's all irrelevant. When you drop the puck, that's all irrelevant.
In the semifinals, the Gophers faced an unfamiliar opponent in New Hampshire.
Herbie, he didn't think much of the Eastern schools. Now we're against New Hampshire in the semifinals. And he had to do some really good coaching to make darn sure that we weren't going to take him too lightly.
We had a tough game, and you had Ralphie Cox, who, hands down, was one of the purest goal scorers I've ever seen at any level.
We're on a face-off, and I got to come out and block this guy. And, of course, they win the draw.
And he put a wrist shot over my shoulder that was coming out of the net before I even moved. And it was the fastest shot I'd ever seen in my life.
And I thought, oh, boy, I am just absolutely going to get roasted when I get back to the bench. And I did.
We were on the stage we'd come to play on, but again, we hadn't been there. So I think there was a little bit of nervous tension as to who was going to step up, but Eric Strobel has the game of his life.
The whole year I was playing right wing with Neil Broughton, and Herbie said, Strobel, we're going to turn you loose. And really I wasn't that happy with him because I had such a good year playing with Neil Broughton.
When it wasn't for Eric, we wouldn't have made it to the next game. Probably the game of his life in college hockey.
The Gophers skated past New Hampshire 4-3 thanks to a hat trick from Strobel. Awaiting the maroon and gold in the NCAA championship game were their border rivals to the west, North Dakota.
It wasn't, here we go again. It was just, I hate him.
It was probably less about playing for a national championship and more about playing North Dakota. Just the fact we were playing for the national championship probably added to it.
I recall it being very, very solemn. People were getting their sticks ready. People were getting everything else taped. Everybody was tense. The feeling was, boy, one game to go. Nobody remembers runner-ups.
One final game remained in the 1978-79 season for Minnesota and North Dakota. Two programs who knew each other all too well. A final skate for the national championship.
I never really used to let my emotions show to the players, but I recall being a little bit more verbal, trying to convey that we weren't going to lose that game.
You're playing against your pretty much #1 rival for the national championship. Big game, got to get it done.
I remember Steve Kristoff scored a beautiful goal early on. Just as he tended to do, he scored a lot of goals, to start the games and got us going.
I pick up a puck and I got Steve Alseth on the other off wing, and we've got a 2-on-1. Steve Alseth has about 80 points on the year, but I see that I do have a shot, and I was able to put the thing top shelf just under the bar. If I wouldn't have scored that goal, I might not have played again that game.
They pulled Billy Stankoven, a goalie who had been very consistent for them all year.
Up 2-1 late in the first period, Bill Baker, who was battling a recent ankle injury, made a key play in the final minute.
I started going towards the net. And of course, when I start moving, Billy's moving.
I wasn't able to skate very well because of the injury, and so it was one of those things where I wouldn't be able to get back, but the opportunity presented itself, so it was just kind of instinct.
Still leading 3-1 late in the second period, a momentary lapse by the Gophers goalie had grave ramifications.
Kevin Maxwell is barreling in on me. I didn't like Kevin that much, and I decided I was going to try and take a run at him. And he gets up and banks a shot off the back of my leg into the net.
And I took my stick and I swung it behind the boards and hit the boards because I was so mad that we let him get a cheap goal in a national championship game. I should have hit him.
Remember Neil Broughton scoring a goal that is just in the history of great goals ever scored.
Early in the third period, the Gophers were nursing a 3-2 lead.
I moved the puck up and I got hit.
It was kind of like just barely creeping towards the top of the circle.
I don't know if the starting goalie would have come out like that.
Then he realized that I was going to get to the puck first.
It just chipped right over the goalie and just going ting, 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 ting. It went in the net. It was just like, yeah!
I was pretty lucky, actually. Things happened pretty quick out there, and it was just something that happened.
The Fighting Sioux scored with just over 10 minutes remaining to close the gap to 4-3. And they continue to pepper the Gophers with shots in the final minutes, with Minnesota's best defenseman, Bill Baker, watching from the bench.
You weren't 100%, and this was a tough spot.
Mike Ramsey was just a young Bill Baker. He was an unbelievable athlete and mentally very, very tough.
I remember him kind of going like, I got it, leave me out. This is a freshman who was on the JV 2.5 months earlier.
You start playing whack hockey, just whack the puck here, whack it there, and because you're not comfortable.
Your heart, I think, was just going the last 5 minutes or whatever.
Same shots that beat me a few weeks earlier in Minneapolis for them to win. This one I caught like a snow cone way back here somewhere.
He made some saves that were just like, your hair was standing up on the back of your neck, and he kicked them out, and you're just like, yes! The last couple of minutes seemed like an hour.
I recall it being very intense and being incredibly overjoyed when somebody got the puck over the blue line with X number of seconds left to go.
The rest of us just, pile on Janny, and it was, the best feeling you could ever have in your life.
We fulfilled kind of what he had described earlier in the year, and maybe he wiped his brow a little bit and said, whew.
It was also a huge relief, in a way, because we finally did what we were recruited to do. Here you have these Canadians who own the game of hockey, and a group of Minnesota kids come out and win the NCAA. It's a big deal.
This is why I came here. And it was very, a very emotional team picture.
It was a very powerful moment.
You win a national championship, you got to party a little bit, right?
We get back to the hotel, and there's no party, there's no nothing. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? We just won a national championship, and we got nothing here. I said, well, look, let's just order 28 bottles of champagne, and we'll charge them to our trainer's room.
We were drinking champagne, and we didn't even like champagne. You didn't want it to end. I don't think it did end for a long time.
Before we got our rings, we had to pay the bill. $75 a guy or whatever it was. But this is back in '79 in college. We didn't have $75.
This competition marks the beginning of a dream, an opportunity to represent their country in the Olympic Games. But for a select group of 70 men trying out for Herb Brooks' hockey team, this is the final and most important stride towards achieving that ultimate goal.
Roughly half the Gophers championship roster went through the grueling Team USA tryouts for the 1980 Olympic squad. The familiarity between Coach Brooks and his U of M roster raised some eyebrows in the selection process.
We had talks, but it was very obvious he needed to take who we needed to take. And Herb, if anything, wanted to be overly objective, wanted to make sure the Minnesota kid deserved to be on there.
There was a rumor that it was either going to be Neil Broughton or Rob McClanahan, but he wouldn't take both of us because he didn't want to bastardize the University of Minnesota's program.
By selection day, 8 members of the 1979 championship team were named to the U.S. squad by Herb Brooks.
When the top 26 were selected, it's like, geez, we got how many Gophers are on here?
And the U.S. team raises its sticks in salute to the crowd, who screams right back at them.
In an event later voted the biggest sports story of the 20th century, Brooks' Team USA upset the Russians and the field to win the gold medal in Lake Placid.
My family and all the Minnesotans flew into the Twin City Airport, and it was a huge, huge celebration.
I just remember how they had the parade and how cold it was, and we're outdoors, we're sitting in convertibles. I mean, it's freezing.
After we won in '80, I think the residents of Minnesota really wrapped themselves around that team. Fans of the U just felt like they were a part of it.
I remember just the quintessential University of Minnesota enthusiasm kind of now spilling over to more of this national kind of stage. People owned that. They owned it.
Brooks would never again coach the Gophers, leaving for subsequent international, NHL, and other Olympic head positions. His last Minnesota team capped a run of 4 Final Fours and 3 national titles in just 7 years behind the Gophers bench.
For me personally, it fits incrementally above Lake Placid because I actually had a role in helping it to fruition.
They won in '74 and '76, but this team was supposed to win it. They were much more skilled, and they felt the pressure, and so I was really happy for them. And I was happy for the Minnesota kid.
We were on the power play, and Timmy Haar was on the power play, and there's a whistle, and Herbie says, "Get Haar off there." And so I was a freshman. He said, "All set, get out there." So I jumped out over the boards, my first ever power play, and I got the puck, and I made a nice pass to Donnie Micheletti, and we scored. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. And then I get off the ice, and Herbie walks over behind me and says, "Hey, Haar, see, even he can bleep and do it."